Maybe we'll put a little precursor, throw it on there. Say, hey, by the way, when we get to the healing today, you might want to not be listening to it in the car because some waves come out.
Welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records. Akashic, we laughing, we drafting the passion through very. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Conscious is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, fascinating. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
And then she was kind of like, I don't like talking about myself. I was like, it's in service of others that you talk about yourself.
There you go.
And she was like, oh, yeah.
I was thinking of you this morning because I just taught Star Beings class and we did deep dive Enneagram stuff last week and this week. And we were talking kind of at length about the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun because I thought about you. And then it so happens someone in the class maybe lives with you. And they were mentioning a thing you two work with each other on.
Uh-huh.
And by the way they were describing the person in the abstract they were working on this with anonymously, I was like, oh,
exactly
so you're talking about Cassidy. Yeah.
That was nice of them to be abstract.
It was very sweet and it was fun to be like, oh, I got you. Yeah, that was really fun.
I live with many people, so this could be anyone we're talking about. I actually do live with a lot of people.
70 people.
We actually just added a new resident. A partner of one of the people who lives there has moved in with us.
How many people is it now, for real?
Under our general address,
He's counting.
7.
Okay, that's fucking a lot.
But like in the main, sort of what I would think of as the main house, which is like the me, Carolina, Diana thing, plus the studio, which really is part of the same complex, is now there's one more in there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wow.
Think of that as 5 sharing 2 bathrooms.
Yeesh.
Which is way better than 1 bathroom.
I'm already mad. Wait, so outside of the main house and studio, what else is there? There's
sort of 2 small attached apartments.
Okay.
One is sort of like a mother-in-law unit, and one is a back upstairs apartment that we kind of made by reconfiguring the walls.
Okay.
As it were, in the upstairs part of the house.
Cool. You guys, it's so
So
cool.
2 separate apartments with their own entrances and their own kitchens, their own bathrooms, their own everything. And then the main house. Yeah. I'm excited to have another sort of just male energy that isn't toxic male energy around the house.
So nice.
Yeah. He's a lovely, lovely human. I really like we're already just kind of like having conversations and chilling and like, oh, hey, what's up? I see you.
You're like broing down a little?
A little bit for 2 guys who are super not broy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There's still like I don't know, let's make up a word that means sensitive, creative guy vibes that isn't bro.
Right. That isn't, or masculine. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just put air quotes. The audience couldn't hear them.
Here.
Those are air quotes.
So if it's not broing down, it would be, let's make up a word.
Guying down.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Rami and I came up with a word. Let's be real.
Friending down. No, it's too generic.
It has to be somewhat specific.
Yeah, it is a gender thing. We are talking about 2 guys who identify as males and have a slightly different viewpoint.
Right.
Based on our experiences in the world.
Right. Guying down.
Guying down.
I like it.
Yeah.
So I was saying to Rami recently, because my default with all of my friends that are not overtly male identifying is to call them girl.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, girl, how you doing?
Yeah.
So at a certain point, a couple years back when I was living in Beacon, I had a conversation with Rami where I was like, how is it for you if I call you girl? Should I not? And we had to talk about it, and they were very generous, of course. And they were like, what if we decide it's girl with a U? Actually, I proposed the idea. I was like, what if when I'm calling you girl, I'm like, it's girl with a U?
Yeah.
Does that do anything? And they were like, sure, you can do it because I know what you mean by it, and it's okay.
And there's a consciousness behind it. Yeah.
Correct. But over the time, it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
It feels kind of dishonoring on some levels. So the other day, a couple weeks ago, I was like out loud leaving them a voice memo like, it wouldn't be bro and it wouldn't be girl. It wouldn't be dude. I was like, how do we combine that? I was like, what about brural? And then I was laughing because it's so hard to say. That
Just not roll off the tongue.
Not worth it.
Oh.
So anyway, we had such a good laugh about it that now I'm like, brural, what's up? Brural.
I would love, honestly, I love being called girl. I love
Really?
that 100%. But that's me and my desire to always be like seen across the spectrum without actually identifying across the spectrum. Or like, you know, I've always liked it when people are like, you know, I'll often say like honey or sweetie to people of any gender, even if I don't have necessarily that like affection relationship with them. And to me, that generally would have been something that would be more gendered.
Right.
I feel like in the past.
Yeah.
But it is and I don't do it like I'm going to say this, but it's become part of my vocabulary. In fact, I feel like I might even do it more with male identified people than I do it because with female identified people, it feels condescending.
Okay.
Or it runs the risk of condescension.
Right.
Whereas with men, I'm like, you need to hear this.
That's nice. That's nice. I think I would feel like our friendship had taken a real step forward based on my development as a person if you felt comfortable calling me honey.
Uh-huh. I think I've called you honey. Like, oh, honey. I'll say it like that.
Well, that's sass, though.
Yeah.
And we're good with sass.
Yeah.
But if you actually had a moment of sincere, like, honey, and I could like receive that, that'd be cool. That'd be like,
that'd be a different level. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to erase that thought because if I do it now, it'll seem false.
Yep.
And let's see if it develops. And
you'll be
happens.
performing it, and we don't want that.
It'll be a little performative. Look, language is fucking performative no matter what we do.
That's true. It's so weird, isn't it? I was thinking about this in terms of relationship because I have this whole thing going on and I'm flying to California on an airplane. What the fuck? That's happening Saturday.
Deep breath.
Yeah. So many.
So many deep breaths. And Xanax. But whatever.
But I wish.
I know you cannot do that shit. Your body just
You know what I did buy is CBD.
Okay.
And I've had it a time. I've told you my CBD story on here.
I don't listen.
Okay, great. I took CBD a time. I took like 10 milligrams or something and hallucinated that I was levitating for like a lot of minutes and panicked so bad from the hallucination that I had to call Eric, who I was dating at the time, and be like, I can't drive home. You have to leave Emeryville and come to San Francisco and save my life because I'm going insane. So I've been afraid of CBD since then.
Sure.
But I bought the drops and the lady who sold it to me was like, you need 1 drop. And I'm like, fuck, how do I do half of that? And so I haven't even...
Could you do 1 drop in a glass of water, swirl it around, and then just drink half the glass?
Oh, yes. Great idea.
We call that titration?
Nice.
I don't know if we call that titration.
You could.
Please correct me. Call in.
Callers. But so I haven't tried it because I'm even afraid of the CBD because of that experience. So... And I keep muscle testing it and getting no. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. The one thing I have going for me is I've had a lot of psychic people look at. Ooh, and we have one coming on today.
We do. We have a friend. Yeah.
Are they getting what I've been getting, which is that the flights are actually going to be like nice and smooth. So I won't have a traumatic experience to navigate. And everybody's been saying they get that it's true. So, fuck. It's the most terrifying thing I could possibly do.
That's intense.
Mm-hmm.
I
was saying to Kat this morning.
What I did for love.
Exactly. I was saying to Kat this morning on a voice memo, I have 2 trips coming up. I have the 8 hours in the air I have to navigate. And then I have this like luxurious week with the man of my heart. It's 2 different things. I got a lot of shit coming up this week. 2 trips. Actually, when I think about it, it's 3 trips because the flight out, the time there, and the flight back.
Oh, so wait, you're flying out here and then taking a trip from here and coming back?
No.
And then flying back? I got confused.
No, I'm flying out, being there. The second trip is just being there and having a great time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my trip.
You're thinking of the flights as totally separate trips.
Correct.
Trips like the metaphorical concept. That's a trip, man.
Exactly, because it's so intense for me that it feels like a whole thing I'm preparing for psychologically that is separate from anything to do with what occurs when I arrive, which is its own fucking trip. And then there's the trip back.
Because, and what I'm worried about for you, I'll just speak my own fear, is you fly out and you have a slightly challenging experience, but it triggers that feeling. But then you're like, shit, now I have to go back.
I know.
And now I've got that in my system of like.
But you know what I was thinking about that? Because that's true. That could occur.
Yeah.
If it's bad or bad enough.
And you survive it.
And I survive it, because I will, knock wood, probably more than likely. Pretty good odds. Then I might take a train back.
If you're like, nope.
Yeah.
If you get a big nope on the way out, then you can always, that's true. It's always an option.
Right. Like worst case scenario, I have to reschedule a few things. People are mad at me. I miss a couple classes I'm supposed to teach because I'm on a train, and I take a train and people survive it. Everybody survives it.
Yeah.
What my friend who was really tapping in for me was getting, she's like, I actually get that the flights are actually going to be easy peasy. You're just going to be navigating your fear from the past. And I'm like, okay. So I've been like tapping and energy healing and processing and past life clearing and having sex. I've been doing so much work.
Wait, the last thing you said sounded like you said, and having sex.
I was going to say, you're right. I was going to say having sessions.
Oh.
But I said,
No, you're going out here. You're doing the sessions to have sex.
Correct. Oh my God. Speaking of which, she's here already, by the way. We should just wait, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to.
Yeah, she knows she's not coming on until the hour.
So it's been pretty fun because we're doing a lot of Marco Poloing and texting and stuff. That's very, yesterday he said, it seems like we should just fuck already. He's like, because the sexual tension's pretty high. Why don't we just fuck already? And I was like, that's a really good point. Let's do it. And then I was like, oh, I'm across the country. That was the joke. The joke being, we can't. And of course we will. But it's like funny to think about, like, there's the sexual tension. We're just like, every polo is like, you look really good right now.
Good. Oh my God, I want you.
You're so cute. Let me see it again. Do I have many pictures and videos of his pain? I do.
Okay.
Are they on it? Heavy rotation? They are.
Have you downloaded them off and put them in a secure location separate from the Marco Polo storage?
That's a good question. They're not on Marco Polo. They're on another. Yeah. Why? Should I do that?
Are they on Signal?
They're on.
I would probably
put them on Signal.
Here's what I would suggest.
Okay.
If you're going to continue doing lots of dirty bits back and forth across that, I know keeps talking about being like, we're more secure than ever. They're owned by Facebook or Meta. So not the best in that regard. Signal, you can video chat, but it's the one that's used by like radical activists. You know, they're like, we're going to communicate only on Signal because it's less hackable. And that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, so the threat would be that someone from Facebook.
I don't know that it's actually stored somewhere in a cloud or on a fucking server somewhere that isn't.
And they could be like, this random guy's penis is now on the internet.
Yeah. If you don't care about that, I don't care that much about it, but I have other people who do. So like the first time I had dirty bits stuff with Denise,
yeah,
it was like, we were like, we had to figure out, oh, look, you can do a video chat with Signal. And then we're like, it's okay. We can do our dirty bits video chat now.
Okay. Fair enough. Cause we got them all over. There's some on, there's a too.
I definitely have a lot of those from a lot of those places myself from my past.
Oh, buddy.
What are you going to do?
He was just down visiting family in LA, and he sent me a text saying, I was just about to show this friend of his, let's call her Janine.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to show Janine, I don't know, some dog picture or something. And so he sent her like access to his some folder or something. And as he was sending it, he was like, let me just check real quick what's in this folder. And it was pictures from like 8 years ago of me with my laying on a bed, clothed, with one boob out of my shirt, with a suction cup on the nipple, a pink plastic suction cup just like straight on the nip.
And he almost sent that to his sister?
He almost sent that to like a friend that is a female.
Oh, good times.
But it was like 40 pictures of my boob with my nip in a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I worry about that sometimes.
Yeah, so he didn't send that to her. That was good. Phone sex. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Or like, device long distance sex. How's it been for you in your life?
Not lately doing that. but that's okay.
No, but I mean, how in your whole life?
Oh, in my whole life, I've had some good times with that. I've had people who are very much wanted to like send me pictures or whatever. And, and then I'm always like perfectly happy to send you them, but I don't ever want to be the guy who's sending a dick pic, because that's its own problem. But if they're being requested, absolutely. Here you go. This is me in all my glory. And, it's fun. I enjoy it. The problem is I understand why guys do it. And I don't understand why they don't get that you don't do it without being asked.
Right.
But I get the arousal of doing it.
Hell yeah.
And honestly, I can even tap into a little bit of the arousal of doing it without being asked, because it's like,
of course.
Yeah, I'm doing this. Yeah. What do you think?
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's, I think, fuck you.
Well, yeah. I mean, you really need context and consent. Like, we have a running joke. Oh God, should I say this out loud? I think it's okay. We have a running joke where, so maybe I shouldn't say this. Should I wait to say this?
Sounds like you shouldn't say it.
I mean, I get it's okay, but anyway, I like a dick pic. Let's say that.
There we go.
And I make it clear that I do, so that men feel that the person I'm with feels safe to be like, here it is.
Once you've established a certain level of relationship, you then file a standing order for consent.
File a standing order. Yep. That's what you do.
Which lasts for the distance of the time that you were involved with that person.
Correct.
Unfortunately, do you officially rescind the order once the relationship ends, or do you...
I think it's implied.
Apparently, men aren't good with implication.
I know, but with this person, it's very clear.
Yeah.
Like he's such a good stand-up human that there would be never a boundary crossing of that nature. But you're right, men in general, nah, you better be clear.
Yeah.
The amount of lessons I've had to learn in this lifetime of the things men don't obviously get is staggering. And women I work with in healing contexts are like, well, I don't have to say that to him, do I? And I'll be like, you have to say everything to him that you don't think you have to or should have to say. It's so odd and interesting. I don't know that's just what it is, right?
Yeah, the number of times where I just have to be like, did you... And same thing, like trying to run interference on my gender, on folks of my gender, being like, did you know that, you still think you hadn't heard?
Oh, you mean to other dudes?
To other dudes, where I'm like, you hadn't heard that we're not doing that? No, you didn't get the memo?
What about for you personally? Do you have the thing where you've had to, in relationship with women, be like, oh, I had no idea. I need you to say that to me. And I'm not talking about things not to do. I'm talking about things to do, or maybe even including things not to do. Like, have you had interactions with women where they're like, I have to tell you this? And you're like, yeah, you have to tell me that.
Probably. Yeah, I'm sure I can't think of an example, but absolutely. Of course, I've had things where I was like, how did I not see that? What? Jesus, I thought I had done the work, or I thought I'd paid attention in class. And there's yet another example of, I think that if we're not just talking about like male, female sexual dynamics, but in general, I think we run across those, all of us in all of our lives constantly, where you get blindsided by something that you can't believe you didn't get before.
Yeah. 1,000,000%. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, we do that. We've done that recently in our conversation, just about like your growth in your relationship, where the ways in which you and your reunioned beau, Chauncey Pliskins, I don't remember.
I don't either.
But Chauncey is definitely that you and Chauncey, where you were like, I was this way with him before, and I made all these assumptions, and I made all these very clear, I have to do it this way. And then you're like, what the fuck? Why would I have to do it that way?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I asked the question as someone who 1,000,000% has had to be told many things. It's different, though. Like the man-woman thing I'm describing here, or typically man-woman thing, is the thing where women can regularly feel like, how do men not know that? The thing with me was like, I was like emotionally immature and not ready for vulnerable adult relationships. That's like, I had work to do like that. And I guess you could frame some of the man stuff like that. But I feel like the man-woman stuff is more stuff that's like, gosh, I don't know how to characterize it. Like relational dynamic stuff that seems like a given to women, but isn't a given for men. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But I guess that's all about personal development, isn't it?
Yeah, everything's personal development to a certain extent. Yeah.
But I guess if we look at the origin of it all, I guess does come from socialization, but I think also partly biology. Like biology and socialization get men to a place in their adulthood where they're not aware of certain things that women have had to be aware of because of
survival,
biology, and socialization.
Yeah.
Yes. And survival being a part of socialization, right?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, there you have it.
In my head, I had an example of, and then it went away. Oh, well, come up with it later. Here's the amusing, slightly off-topic version of that for me. In content warning, I'm going to talk about my sex life. Like, I have to give that content warning. You never do. I discovered at a certain point that, like, you know, the whole, if you're going to be like more dominant or more submissive, like I have this very specific trigger of like, I would love to be dominant. Okay. But I have to do it from the place of you demanded it of me. Huh. Right? Which actually kind of subs me. Yep. Like if you bully me into, or not bully, but like push, you take me, you know, like you top me so that I will top you. That's great. By making it. And part of that is this idea of like, it needs to be crystal clear that I am about to be dominant with you and that you have given me not just permission, but insistence. I see. Because that's the consent. That's where the consent stuff is. It's like, yeah. Are you sure? You really want me to go to that place? So if you do it in a dominant way, then I'm definitely going to be able to take you dominantly. Interesting. That reminds me of this play that I'm still up for that who knows if I'll ever hear about because it's not happening until fucking January. Oh. Yeah, but it's Venus in Fur. Right. Which, God, is that an interesting play about this exact topic, doms and subs. There's this whole moment in the middle of the play where the man keeps insisting that the woman dominate him because he wants her to dominate him. And then he keeps repeating, but you have all the power, you have all the power. And finally, at one point, the female character comes out of character into her like neutral self and is like, you actually think I have the power? You're telling me I have the power. Therefore, you have the power. Right. You have to grant me the power. Yes. Which gives you the power to grant it. Yes. And it's just, there's so many That's the same thing. Yeah. It's really interesting. And then like the idea of asking someone to dom you. Yeah. There's a lot going on. Yeah. I have a thing where, just to explore this a little bit more, where, yeah, it's really interesting. There's a fine line. There's a degree to which, as a strong woman, I had somebody help me with this once. She was like, a friend of mine, a female friend, said, "You're very strong, so I imagine you like to be dominated in bed." And I was like, oh, do I? And I had to really think about it. And I realized, like, I have a very, I don't know, there's like a particular blend of all of it that works for me. In other words, I want some sense of, you have power and you're taking it. But I need also simultaneous to that some sense of, you love and care about me. And there's like care here. Mm-hmm. And so it's more than consent. It's like care. And I had this moment too, where I realized in all of my masturbatory fantasies over the past 20 years or something, I realized the ones that really work have care in them. Yeah. Like somebody's being nice to someone. That's your kink. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I love it. It's like I'll give you an example. It's like, here we go. One of the things. Content warning. Katie's going to talk about her masturbation choices. Yeah. So like a fantasy that I have sometimes is like doctor situation where I'm on the table and there's stirrups. Mm-hmm. And my feet are in them. I'm loving you. I'm just... Sweetie, tell me this. Honey, tell me this story. And that's happening. And there's a doctor there and he's doing stuff. And it's like inappropriate because he invites a bunch of other doctors in to check out what's happening. But he's being very nice to me downtown. Okay.
See the combo?
I do. Absolutely. On this topic, before we're about to let our guest in, but I was reminded that I recently went back and started listening to All That and Mo, which is another great podcast.
So fun.
From our friend Mo. And she did the keynote and a Q&A at a recent leather convention. She's former international Miss Leather. She's a big deal in that world. And it was so powerful. She just took the speeches and put them as her episodes, 2 different episodes.
Oh, cool.
Very recent on All That and Mo. I cried. It was so deep, so powerful. And she talked about a lot of those dynamics, but talks about them from a very deep cultural standpoint and from the point of view of human development and kindness and how do we care for each other and all the shit. And it is fucking good stuff.
Wow.
On this topic, for an expert on this topic, please go listen to All That and Mo recent episodes.
Yeah, I was going to say the 2 most recent episodes.
No, it's probably about 3 weeks ago or a month ago, but you can find it. Just look for the ones that are about the leather convention.
Well, on that sexually inappropriate topic, it's not inappropriate. It's more like just risque or edgy.
Yeah, edgy. And now we're going to bring in a very close friend of my father's. So, maybe we're going to shift gears.
Perfection. That's very us. All right, let's do it.
All right. Let me
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring her in, as it were.
There she is. Here she comes.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, you're here.
Hi.
Welcome. Remind me, because I'm new to you, what's your name?
Claudia Hallowell.
Claudia Hallowell. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Let's just do one thing. Claudia, I know it's a little crazy. Let's just have you exit out of the call and then rejoin it once real quick.
Okay, I'll do that right now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Rami here. My time in the Italian hospital was so cinematic. When I was wheeled from the emergency room to surgery, it's a huge old hospital, and I was just wheeled through hallway after hallway, empty, every single one, completely empty. Long hallways, just me being wheeled with the sounds of the wheels, and the lines on the floor and the green European style exit signs. And a lot of my time there was spent sort of like in a state of sleeping and waking. And it was like watching my life in scenes where I would sleep and then wake up and the scene had progressed. And I was in this hospital green room. There were 3 beds in the room. My bed was on one side and the other 2 beds were across from me with 2 very old, very feeble Italian ladies in them. And so in this hospital green room, there would be times when these 2 pairs of old sunken eyes would just be like staring at me. And it was Mercury retrograde as fuck. Like, I went into the emergency room on a national holiday, May Day, which is Labor Day in Europe. And then 5 days of no internet, no common language, and recovering from abdominal surgery. It was wild. Rami's rules.
Hey, there you are. And we can see.
Ah, there you are.
Hi.
We did it.
We did it. What I had to do is go into settings and turn on camera.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Well, welcome here. I was just about to tell you before we went off that what we do here, just a little bit more so you know what you're stepping into. I'm sure Cass has informed you, but just a little bit. He and I chat and we banter and we catch up on the week and we be funny and silly together. And then we have a guest on and we talk about spirituality. I'll ask you some questions about you, but about the work you do and how you see reality, how you understand consciousness. I have some very specific questions for you. Anything you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer. It's totally okay by us. And then if the guest wants it, I open the Akashic records of the guest and answer any questions they might want to ask. I'm sure you know all about that as with the work you do, and or bring healing through, whatever you want. And we also don't have to go into the records at all. Since you're someone who works in that field, you may not require it or desire it, and that's all good. So we'll spend a bunch of time talking and just asking you stuff and having a fun conversation is really the gist of it.
That's great.
Before you do that, Katie, I would just love to jump in and give context as to why the hell we even bring Claudia on, just for myself. Claudia and I talked this morning and we were talking about like, what is who is this person to you? And I have a relationship, which is you were part of a study that my father was doing when I was a child, like a young kid. I don't even know the years. We're talking maybe late 70s.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's when he was getting his doctorate. It's what he got his PhD in. And he got his PhD where he was a biofeedback person who did a lot of brainwave stuff and measuring brainwaves. And his doctorate was on altered states of consciousness and their effect on the neural state. It was the technology was way more rudimentary than he had access to back then. And he had this friend, acquaintance, person who was, to put it simply at that time, a psychic. And that's what I knew about you. I knew that my dad had a friend who was a psychic, and he was using her as like a baseline for some of his work. And so you were the first person I was exposed to that was a, quote, bona fide psychic in my mind. And I've always known that. And so I've always had this sort of passive, distant relationship with you and this concept in my head.
Yeah.
So my dad mentioned the other day, like, oh, yeah, you should talk to Claudia. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. We should absolutely have Claudia on because you guys talk all the time, you and Jim Brown, the awesome.
We talk all the time.
Yeah. So
we connect and I channel. Yeah.
Very cool.
So you channel with him on these calls.
Yes. And I guess I've never considered myself a psychic per se, but definitely a sensitive or one who's in touch with other realms. That's for sure.
Yeah. And would you say that you're a channel or a medium?
I'd say I'm more of a channel. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't channel entities or things like that. Yeah, just that force, tuning into that force.
Which force?
Just the universal force, the source of aliveness, the source of our soul.
Yeah, so maybe source.
Source, yeah, just source. Whatever that is, I'm not sure any of us know exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I myself in my training as an Akashic Records reader and energy healer, it was very important to me that I'd be pulling information only from source, hence the particular brand of studies I did, because I had seen there were a lot of, quote, psychics who were pulling from what I could perceive to be, you could say, like closer realms of energy to the body that are not the source.
Right. That's my experience also.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in being that. So I went to many schools to make sure I was not that and I was pulling from source. So I hear you, respect you.
And we have to work on ourselves a lot in order to clear our own channels, because it's like writing. I write and I paint and everything, but you hold the brush and you hold the pen, but the real work is clearing the channels so that you can receive higher vibratory frequencies all the time.
That's it.
Then you have to integrate that and be that. And that's the hard work.
That is the work. And that's what my whole life has been. I have often shared on here that I've always thought my life is this one thing, but nope. It's just life is directing me constantly just to that, to that, to that. So yeah, I hear that loud and clear. Questions for you. Is this work that you do with clients professionally? Is this like your field of work?
No, I used to do readings for people a long time ago, but no, in fact, a lot of people don't even know that I do this. It's just kind of a natural part of my life. And yet it's not really something I usually discuss unless the subject comes up.
Cool. So like a lot of people in your life maybe don't even know that this is a thing you do.
No, the people close to me know, but it's just not something I talk about very much. I use the channel, I think, mostly in writing and painting, but I do channel every day and I teach people to channel, and I do a lot of readings all over the world, but I just do them. I don't charge for them, or it's just not, it's kind of a separate part. And I'm not sure why, except that it's kind of like breathing to me. It's so natural that I don't think to even discuss it that much. How about you guys, your interest in this? How did you become so involved in doing the podcast?
Oh, I'll tell you all about that. It's just that our listeners have heard all about my ass forever. So it's not that interesting for them, but you are because you're new. But I will answer the question in just a moment. Absolutely. And thank you for asking about me. But I want to follow up on what I just asked you by saying, when did you first discover this in your life, that you had this ability? And like, when did you first start channeling?
When I was a child, I lived in the country and I would go off by myself and, experience different energies. And I also saw things from a very young age that if something was going to happen to someone, I could see it, and I could see what their soul was about, why they were here on the planet, what they were here to do. And so it started pretty young, and then just a lot of various experiences. But yeah, it started very young.
Would you say you were maybe 4 or 5 years old, 3, 2, 1, 6? How old were you?
Well, I have vivid memories when I was 8 or 9, and I don't know if I did, but I sensed things. But I started having different kinds of experiences when I was about 9, where I could see what was going to happen in people's lives. I could see where they had injuries in their bodies. I could see where their energies were blocked and they were wanting to get free. And I could see what their soul path was. What they were here to do on the planet.
Was this information or sense coming to you without your consent, or was it, if you tuned in, it would happen, or was this information flooding at you sometimes?
It would come to me, and I don't know that it was without my consent. In other words, it wasn't some sort of negative force that would come at me, but it was just part of, like I said, it was just a natural part of being around people. I could sometimes, not always, but I could just sometimes see these things. And I remember talking to people about it, and sometimes people were open and sometimes they weren't. So I got a little bit more quiet about it, but it was fascinating to me.
Was it ever scary?
No, it wasn't scary. It was sad sometimes if I saw that someone was going to leave the planet.
Right.
Or if an animal was going to leave the planet. It was sad. But it also was wonderful because it gave me an opportunity to love them, to openly and kind of be with them while they were here.
That's sweet.
In a different way.
Did you consciously choose along the path of your life to not do it professionally, or did it all just kind of play out that way?
It just played out that way. It wasn't any resistance to it or anything like that. It just felt more natural to do it differently.
Do you mind if I ask, like, the work you've done in the world? Like, what kind of work have you wound up doing professionally? Is that an okay question?
Yeah, sure. I was a model for a long time. I had my own company in stress management consulting, and I worked a lot with police officers and firemen, particularly around PTSD, sort of as a liaison between them and an employee assistance program. I've just done a lot of different things, just a lot of different things.
Yeah. What kind of modeling?
I did a little bit of runway modeling, and I did photography modeling.
Wow, that's fantastic. Did you master the runway walk?
Oh yeah.
in heels and everything?
Oh yeah.
Wow. I find that very impressive. That's not the easiest thing to do. If anybody's ever thought, like, what do models do? They just walk down a it's so hard.
Well, it's funny because I got into modeling because I always felt that I always felt very self-conscious. I thought I was very ugly. And if people photographed me, it was really hard for me. I didn't like looking at myself. And I just felt very uncomfortable about my physical appearance. And so it's like I'm afraid of heights. So I did rope rappelling. And I did that as part of the training for police and fire. And then I was afraid of guns. So I did, went to the firing range with them and worked with them on the stress aspect of it, but I also sort of overcame it that way. And I decided I would go to modeling school and I would get over that fear of getting up, having my photograph taken at least. And so that's how I started modeling.
counterphobic Enneagram 6.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that sounds right. I was gonna say it's if nothing else, it's counterphobic, which is cool.
Yeah. I love that. That's I mean, to have that be the motivation for one's life to do the thing that you're most afraid of.
Yeah.
Which worked for some people. Like, that's the thing is like, I love that idea. And I have to remember that's not like a good universal thing to apply to everybody. Like, walk into your fears. No, sometimes those fears are really clear, put there for a reason. But for some people, those are there to tell you where you need to go.
Yeah. And for me, they're there to teach me about my aliveness, because the fear deadens my aliveness and it limits me. So it's about teaching me how to expand and open up to that inner soul and spirit, and how to be freer. So,
yeah.
And with your work with like especially the PTSD stuff, I have to assume that even though you're not like being a professional healer or psychic in that context from the other realms, that work, that knowledge and that awareness absolutely has to play a part in the work you're doing. If you're doing one-on-one work with somebody about their trauma,
yeah,
your awareness of their soul is going to play a part in that.
Yeah. And if we all have trauma, I think. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think we all have trauma. Some of it's severe, and the more severe the trauma, the more potential for creativity and the more sensitized you can become. So I believe that a lot of my sensitivity came out of trauma. A lot of my creativity came out of trauma, but it also gives you a depth to what you do. And I believe that, basically for me, my experience is being in touch with my own soul, but also in touch with the soul of others. If it's just a conversation like we're having, or if I go out to eat and there's a waiter, or I go down the street or go to the grocery store, to me, it's not just, well, I'm in touch with this person. I'm sort of in touch with their soul, and you can communicate with souls and you can alter their responses. I mean, it's like they light up if they just feel that from someone, and they may not even know what's happening. I may not even be thinking about it, but it just kind of happens. And then the world, I mean, we need to see the soul of the world, especially now, because I believe that what's happening in the world, all the difficulties we're having, is because the soul is emerging. So it's very positive ultimately. And so when I would work with them, the police officers or whatever, the fact that I could relate to what they were feeling, not just think I understood what they were going through, that they know, people know the difference. They know if someone really, really understands what you're going through.
Right. Cool. Yep. Well, to come back to what you asked before, just to not be rude and drop your question, my whole thing started many, many years ago. Gosh, I'm sure at birth, really. But in an attempt to heal my own trauma, I wound up at energy healing schools because nothing else worked. And so the only thing that worked was divine light intervention. And then that changed everything. And it opened a lot of questions for me that then opened into more healing work and more healing work. And as you mentioned at the top, the more I did my own conscious pulling out of everything heavy, dense, dead, unconscious, trauma-based, I call them the secondary gifts started to open. It's like if our connection to source is really prevalent or strong, sometimes if you innately have secondary gifts, they awaken. And for me, it was, the ability to transmit divine light for healing for people, and psychic awareness or whatever, being able to hear the guides, being able to hear consciousness, being able to teach by channeling, etc. But it all came as a secondary effort, or a secondary arrival after the effort of healing.
Yes.
And the healing was driven, in my case, by absolute desperate necessity and pain. It wasn't like I was frankly, on the soul level, I'm aware that I was a pretty evolved being when I got here. Like, I've been around a bunch of times, but my human mind and ego and heart and body were just obliterated and so traumatized.
Yeah.
So it's taken a lot of work, and there's more to go, but the work opened the secondary effects. So that's my answer. So I've been to 3 healing schools. They were each 4 years long, and they were each stage of it has been an attempt to heal or integrate or awaken to something new. And they all now, having studied 80 million things, it's all just like, they're all just tools in the toolkit, that come forward depending on the client, consciousness will say, okay, this one needs this. Here we go. This one needs that. Here we go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
And I appreciate the kind of work you've done. I understand what that means to do that kind of work to overcome trauma. So that's really special. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And I would say my pathway into spirituality in the podcast is the podcast. And it's really my relationship with Katie. I would say, I mean, I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, but like my pathway into true connection to any kind of higher realms, it's always been very intellectual for me throughout my whole life. It was theoretical and kind of conceptual. And when we originally came up with the idea, Katie and I are old comedy friends. That's straight. That's it. We're comedy friends. We're friends through acting and being funny together. We've done that for years before we ever did the podcast. But then we started the podcast and we're like, I'll come on and be the friendly skeptic and like challenge your weird woo-woo-ness in a humorous, loving way. And that went away pretty much right away. The concept of skeptic, I'm still a person who has his own ideas, but like it's been the conversations we have on this podcast that have drawn me deeper and deeper and closer to any kind of connection to source myself, I would say. And even my first real, truly visceral experience of something greater was very recent, like 2 weeks ago. I feel like we had that.
Oh, what?
We did a healing that just went through my jaw in a way that I could not deny. I was like, no, that shit's happening. I'm not coming up with that idea, which I often fear that's what I'm doing. And I was like, wow, that was a thing that happened in my jaw. So that's just the short version of my pathway is literally being dragged, held, carried, lifted, and cajoled along that path by my dear, loving friend, Katie. So
I love that. And Katie, do you find that Cassidy grounds you somewhat in your being able to channel, that there's he kind of anchors you in some way?
Not in my spiritual work at all. No. But he is a grounding element in my life, I would say. Like, in other words, anyone I'm friends with is an energy necessarily, to the degree that he and I are friends, like anybody I'm good friends with, is someone who's pulling me into this three-dimensional realm. They're like, hey, how are you? What are you doing in your life now? And I'm like, right. Humans, here we are. And like one way that Cassidy's always been that for me that I don't think I've said out loud is he's so relational. He's all about human relationships. Like he has an easeful time with people that he's been sort of a template for me of like, oh, you could be like that with people. I see. Oh, collaboration. Okay. Oh, be kind just because. Like, we always joke on here that Cassidy was raised well. He had like parents that loved him or something.
Well,
I did not.
You're very close to my father. You can probably attest to that.
Yes, I can definitely attest to that. Absolutely.
And so the gift that is in my life, getting to watch how Cassidy is with human beings, it pulls me down and into what works in reality with human beings.
Yeah.
And all my relationships with people I really care about are sort of are that. You know what else I'll say too, to honor you even more, Cass, is that because Cassidy was so well parented, I feel like he's a safe place for me to learn about being a person. Like Cass can tolerate me at my worst and even still loves me at my worst. So no matter how like much I don't understand humanity or do it badly, he's loving about it because he had loving parents who held him in love, and he has the imprint of that in his heart and soul. I may have technical information and know-how from the other realms and know how to do a lot of trauma integrative healing. But that's because out of, like I said, desperate necessity, because I was so broken.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of stuff I know and access to things, but he's just like here, loving, kind. So he brings me that perspective, which is so helpful.
I love that. And I think maybe that's what I mean by anchoring, is that he helps you embody your light in a safe, tangible way. He creates a safe environment for you to embody your light in kind of a tangible way. And Cass, that's probably part of your gift, part of your channeling, how you channel light, is that you bring that to the world and to your relationships, like your dad.
I am my father's son.
Indeed. So how for you, coming back to you, because you're the beautiful, important guest here, how easy is it for you? Like if someone says like, hey, could you channel for me? Is it just sort of a stepping back and a listening in or up or behind? Is it simple for you? Or is there like do you do a process? Do you just kind of tap into a thing? Like, what is that moment for you like?
Well, it usually is pretty easy. It comes immediately. And there are people that are really open to it, that information just comes and they've let me know that it's okay. They want to have it anytime that I see something. And so sometimes it comes, but no, it's very easy. It's pretty easy unless, I guess if there are times when I haven't gotten anything because I'm not sure why. It just didn't come. It just didn't feel right. And I don't push it. But yeah, it's pretty easy.
That's cool.
It's pretty easy. It's harder not to get information sometimes.
I get that. I relate to that.
And I'm respectful of people's energy fields. So I don't kind of barge in unless I'm invited or unless their soul says, yes, please.
Yeah, I hear you. Same. Here's a nice flipperoo on the old podcast here. Usually the guest gets to ask me questions, but I want to ask you a question for me.
Okay.
Would you be willing?
Sure.
It's really just one thing, but it's been, so my whole life, as I shared with you, has been healing everything. And I found that I don't believe at this point there's anything that's really unhealable, because it's like most people never face half the shit I've faced and certainly don't heal it. So I feel very grateful that I've been able to face some of these really dark, heavy monsters. Something that I've been working on for so many years that I feel like I have very little progress on is this thing that settled in when I was in my mid-30s, where I have this desperate fear of turbulence on airplanes, which I understand to be fear of my body being out of control, which I know where it comes from, like in this lifetime. And I've even looked at some of the past lives that it comes from. But no matter how many past life clearings or trauma clearing or EFT tapping, or no matter what I do, I haven't yet been able to integrate it entirely. And I wonder if through your channel, you might have guidance for me about what is required of me in order to no longer have a trauma response to turbulence on airplanes.
Do you have a trauma response to turbulence otherwise?
No, particularly unless I'm out of control. So if I'm in a car and someone else is driving, I can get really afraid of the turbulence there too.
You can get anxious, but it feels like when you're in an airplane, it's much, much worse.
Much worse.
It's kind of like a life-death kind of thing.
Correct.
Well, this is interesting. What I see is that it's not the turbulence you're afraid of. You're okay with turbulence because you've worked through a lot of turbulence. And you, when you are in turbulence, you can figure out how to kind of stabilize yourself and balance yourself. What you're afraid of, I see, and see if this makes any sense for you, is the soaring. Like the airplane is in the air and you have heights, consciousness, and wonder, and oh my God, all kinds of things that you feel a little afraid to go into. A much more expansive life even, and much more expansive consciousness than you've ever even experienced. And that's what gets disturbed in the turbulence in the air, because you associate being, like if you're on the ground or in a car, the car can always stop and you can kind of get out and you can walk away. But in an airplane, you can't get out. You can't get away from it.
Right.
And I feel like there's that association with you can't get away from kind of an ultimate destiny that you're going to be experiencing that's really spectacular, really spectacular. And so, and as I talk about this, it's like my heart just feels so open and joyful. It's like, oh my God, is this open, joyful thing, because you're used to trauma. You know, when we've been through a lot of trauma, we get good at understanding about trauma, but the joy and expansion is a little harder for us to get comfortable with. So I feel that's what going off on an adventure, going to a new place, traveling afar, being up in the air, being soaring in your own consciousness in a totally new way is what I get. Tell me how that feels, or if that makes any sense to you.
There is resonance to that, but I think the question, that's beautiful. I've never heard that framing of it. Thank you. I like that perspective a lot. It resonates. And it still doesn't answer the question, how do I be, what is required of me? What work to do?
Oh, excellent.
So that I can just embrace it and soar instead of being literally terrified for my life in the moment of the turbulence.
Okay, let me see what I get about that. And just tune into your body. Where is this fear in your body when you have it? Or when you think about it right now, where's the tension of the fear?
Mm-hmm. It's the brainstem and it's the heart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there some creative gift that you have that you haven't done, or that I'm not sure it's even something you want to do, but what I see that could help you overcome this, because it's not something you can figure out what to do. It does have to come from the heart and the intuition. And so it's not something you have to think about to figure out, or there's something you have to, do, like go do work on this fear, or go do this. See, the way you're moving your arms, it's like you're flying right now. It's like you're flying.
You perceiving my energy field is having an effect on my energy field. And a lot of this is disentangling down the heart meridians and then into the brainstem. It's like you're working.
I love that.
Yeah, you're working me just by paying attention to it. So please keep paying attention to it.
Okay, I will keep going.
I'm not afraid.
So just the thing you're doing right now, like moving and flying and opening up your body and opening up your heart, because in trauma, we have a tendency to, certain things have a tendency to, close. And you've worked on that a lot, but this level is like the real reason you came here. I mean, we're all coming into the real reason we came here in terms of the freedom that we're to have and our souls totally expressed. So there's this level of soul expression that you're just coming into that is just exquisite. And it's like it's all of who you are. That's it perfectly. What you're doing is moving your body like that and your mouth and just opening up your whole being. And as you do that, light is shining out of you, like your energy field is just lighting up. Go ahead. You were saying something.
It's just very interesting watching which meridians are opening. I'm just watching it all happen.
Yeah, beautiful. And there are fun ways to add to the movement that you're doing. Like, of course, dance is a basic, but I would also recommend, because there's a little bit of mental stuff that you don't have to figure out. You don't have to, there's something right brain.
Okay.
That is a little bit wanting to open up.
Okay.
I don't call it a block. It's not a block. And there's nothing negative about it. It's just that it's been waiting until it's the right time. And now is the right time for many of us to open up new levels. But there's something right there in the right brain.
Can you feel into it for a second so I can?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
There it is.
Can you feel it?
Yep. Now I can. When you're in there, I can feel all of it. Ugh, it's good. That's all the way down the right side to opening the back of the hips. It's really, really good.
Beautiful. I love that. I love it.
I'm over here crying, by the way. I don't know what's going on, but
that's so cute.
Squeezing tears out of me, whatever's happening.
I'm crying too.
Let's keep going. Because this is contributing to the listener as well. Oh, I'm seeing now more clearly what's happening. Let's keep going. We're doing well.
So the light is opening. It's like a dot in the right brain, and it's opening, and there's light, there's things that are coming out of it, and it's disentangling the trauma, it's disentangling thoughts of your limitations. And what's emerging is this light that is, as all that releases, then this light releases. And then that's what's filling your whole body and your heart, and then our hearts too. Cassidy's and mine, bringing us to tears, because it's a joyful release for, and what you're doing in releasing it is, of course, we're releasing it for everyone. And the earth is releasing now. Even the earth has that spot in it where the old entanglement is pulling out. And so you're also attuning to the earth, but you're also attuning to heaven. And what it is heaven on earth is opening up. We've been through hell on earth.
Yeah.
But heaven on earth is opening.
Amen.
It's just opening. And so just, I'm in there and I'm seeing, I'm feeling it just, and now the joy is starting to kind of fill and flow and open up, just open. Laughter and the feeling of being treasured and cared for that you didn't have. Yeah. That's it. Let it go. That's it. Let it go. Treasured. That's it. That's just treasured, cared for, and nurtured, and rejuvenated and replenished on every level, every cell, all your organs, your energy field, your eyes and your third eye is going to see going to have a new way of seeing, and a vision. Visions are going to open, and your throat is going to open of expression now, and your heart. That's it. Your face is so beautiful right now. That's it. Let it go. Yeah, let it go. That's it. Let it go. Beautiful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Your face looks so beautiful. Your energy is so light. Your heart is blossoming. Like blossoms are just coming out of your heart. You have so much love inside. That's it. Let it out. Let the tears, let the feelings come in. So beautiful. That's it. Let it all out. That's the tensions. And just soar. Just soar. And you can imagine being on a plane now.
I was just doing that.
Were you? Yeah. And it can be joyful and no fear, you're soaring. Oh, yeah. That's it. Let it out. That's beautiful. Just let it all come out. Yeah. He's comforting you. The puppy's comforting you.
She always does.
Yeah.
She always knows.
She knows. And she loves that energy too. She's comforting you, but she's also just
She's
bathing
drinking
in
it up.
Yeah.
Smoking it.
Exactly.
Oh, Buddha dog.
We're so lucky you're here. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, well, I feel so grateful. I'm so blessed to be here.
We've never done that.
I've never once gotten the awareness to ask someone on here for help ever, because nobody's been ready or legit enough. But you're so deeply Legit.
Oh, thank you. Well, that makes me feel wonderful, but I'm just joyful and it's happening.
She's
It's
like
so-
demanding.
Oh. Wow.
Uh,
Oh shit.
we always we always wonder where the idea that we're talking about before the guest comes on is going to show up, because it always does. A concept or an idea shows up. We don't insert it. It gets brought into the conversation every time. And today, when you said cared for,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
we both lost. That's when we both broke.
Treasured.
When you said cared for and then you said treasured, we both broke at that moment, because that's what we were talking about. We were talking about in a very irreverent, we were talking about in a sexual context. We were getting dirty. It was fun. But Katie brought up this idea of being cared for, being like your kink in a sense, or I said that. I made that joke. But like that was actually a very true and deep idea for you in that context. And then when you said it in exactly, nope, that's what we're talking about.
Wow. And you were talking about that before I came on?
Yeah, right before. He said every single episode that we tape, when we talk in the half hour before the guest comes on, organically, the core of what we were talking about shows up in the guest interview. Every time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And both of your faces have really changed. I don't know if you you probably can look at each other.
Katie, you look like 10 years younger suddenly. I'm not kidding. You really do. Like there was something in your face that just went and cleaned up.
Yeah, really. You too, Cassidy.
Thanks. Yeah, that was that's my second visceral experience on the podcast. No control.
I love it. God, I'm just so grateful. This
Isn't it
is so beautiful
amazing?
for me too.
No, we thought it was going. I love it. I love it.
Well, I'm so honored that you asked the question. You know?
I was just gonna say I'm brave. I'm glad I was brave enough to ask, but it was so obvious that you could actually do something that I was like, well, there's no time like the present. It's also really good for our listeners to hear, like, I need help too. I'm a healer and I need help too. And like, I'm not above having shit that I gotta cry through. You know, I have my students that come to my classes and stuff, they love it when I bring a story. Not all of them, but I've had a few of them reflect to me, like, when you tell us about this, that you yesterday cried through a thing, you know how helpful that is to us? And I'm like, oh, yes, I do know, because the power of the truth and vulnerability, it's always the thing that connects all of us and opens the door to liberation and healing. And anyway, so thank you for giving me an opportunity to just receive, both for myself and for the listeners who get to hear, like, the lady who's always giving the thing so someone else can receive has to receive.
Oh, well, that's just wonderful. I love this. I just am so happy about this.
I mean, and I think you said something, Claudia, when it was happening, about when it was unlocking in Katie and then it was sort of flowing out. And that's what was, the waves of that were hitting me. And I have to assume that right now that's happening for people who are in any way connected to our sphere. And then it's going to happen again when they actually listen to it, because that's how it generally works for our podcast. And that,
yeah, the energy is here, so it's hitting them.
that was good for everybody.
Oh, it's beautiful.
If you're driving a car while listening to this, you might want to pull over. She says way too late.
Maybe we'll put a little precursor, throw it on there. Say, hey, by the way, when we get to the healing today, you might want to not be listening to it in the car, because some waves come out.
Oh, and
I'm just feeling, go ahead.
No, please, you go ahead.
Oh, no, please. What were you going to say? And then I'll tell you. I'll do all my...
I was just going to say that Cassidy's laughter is opened up. His throat is opened up.
Yeah. Interesting. Now I need to go work on that voiceover that I was going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, go ahead and go ahead now. What you were going to say, Kathy.
Oh, no, I was just saying I'm feeling into myself to see if there's more. I don't get...
Yeah, let's look and make sure we got it all. There's something in your spine, just right in your upper back.
In the back of the heart. Yep.
Right in the back area in your heart. Right behind your heart. Okay, so let's see what needs to happen. Okay, so yeah, talk about anything you're feeling, because something's wanting to come out.
Yeah, it's happening already. There's a line of tight energy from the middle back of the heart up through the spinal column into the brainstem that's just become visible and palpable. And as I sink into it and your attention is there, it's softening and integrating and processing. It's really deep. Nervous system. Good. It's like healing. Oof. These I can see the little nerve endings, the nerves into the brainstem in here, like being almost thawed out and corrected or something, fixed.
Mm-hmm.
That have to do with that terror response.
Mm-hmm. And flight. And that's it. Just stay with it. That's it. You're doing great. It's loosening. Yes, it's like you need permission to be happy and joyful in your heart and starting to, that's it. It's starting to go. It's connected to a lot of sorrow. The sorrow is not being able to be this part of yourself fully and totally. And it is play. It's connected to play. You're shaking your head, yes. Play. You want to be free. You just want to be free.
That's what I've been working for this whole lifetime.
Every level. And this is where you're at. You're ready to be free. All the work you've done in this lifetime and all the other lifetimes has been to be free. And now you're there and it is opening.
It's a bunch of sort of tightness in the back of the skull that's releasing.
Yeah.
In the upper jaw, the hinges of the jaw, skull connection.
Mm-hmm. Like tendrils of energy are able to go through the brain now. Neurological pathways are able to spark. I don't know a lot about neurological pathways, but I know that I've experienced new ones forming and sparking and opening.
Same here.
And yeah.
Over and over, many times.
Yeah. This is so deep. This is so deep. This goes to the heart of it, to the heart of everything, your core pattern in all lifetimes and in this lifetime. And it's linked to the being treasured and cared for. That had to open up. And then this could open up. And it has to do with this level of love. Receiving the love. It's like being cared and treasured, letting that in and opening that up, and then releasing and able to express levels of love that you crave to express. And it's that flow of both. It's the balance. The male, female. It's the balance. Receiving, offering, receiving, offering. It's just opening up in you. Now you may end up feeling kind of sleepy and tired to integrate this. And that's ultimately what the soaring is. It's to be free, totally free. And the tendrils, the holding on in your body is, yes, but I want to make sure that I've done everything that I need to do to be free. I want to make sure that I've handled everything, so I'll be responsible, it'll be authentic and everything. But that's all just kind of moving away now, and it's opening up the freedom. That's it. That's it. Yes.
Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. I'm right here. I'm right here. Yes.
And so I'm just asking if we're complete, like if it's complete. It's going to take some integration, as you said, but.
Yeah.
There's a thing I want to describe for everyone, really interesting, that just happened. Cassidy, you might know this better than I. Do you know that isn't there a symbol that has to do with Albuquerque?
The Zia symbol for New Mexico?
Yeah, let me look it up.
It's like a sun. It's like a circle with on all four, on the north, south, east, west of it, there's 3 lines, one taller than the other 2, radiating out. It's the Zia symbol.
I have to see it to make sure this is the thing I was just seeing. Okay, yeah, right. God, that's interesting. Let's see if I can explain this. God, that's fascinating. Consciousness is so cool. In the sort of last part of that movement of energy, if for the listener, just to describe this, if you picture a circle and then 4 lines coming out of the top of the circle, 4 lines coming out of the right, 4 lines coming out of the left, and 4 lines coming out of the bottom. So in all the 4 directions, there's 4 lines coming out of this circle. If you imagine a connection between the top 4 lines and the right 4 lines, like a curved connection. And then if you imagine a connection from the bottom 4 lines to the left 4 lines, like a curved 4 lines that connect them, so that you have this shape, almost like the shape of what's the Buddhist symbol that looks like a swastika but isn't? Manji, it's called, I think. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, if you picture 4 lines up to the middle and out to the right, and then from the down to the middle and out to the left, these lines were like that in my brainstem. And then as the light was working me there, they straightened out and became 2 sets of straight up and down lines. The significance of the New Mexico piece is like the Southwest of the United States has been an important part of my healing journey. And my dad moving to New Mexico when he left my mom was this doorway to me getting to know that part of the world and the gift that the energies there bring to humanity, which has everything to do with the 4 directions, which has everything to do with flying. This is all just coming through right now. So as the lines straightened up and became essentially 8 lines next to each other, straight up and down, the 8 up and down lines were representative of my nervous system functioning the way it's meant to, and the central channel of meridians functioning the way they're meant to, and the central channel of the Kundalini functioning the way it's meant to. It's like just like a level of healing on the nervous system and the Kundalini level and the central channel level that allows me to experience a sense of safety while soaring. In other words, without what we just did, there was no way in my nervous system. The lines were not connected. They were disconnected. They weren't where they're meant to be. So anyway, now they're where they're meant to be. And the symbol of Albuquerque holding that image for me the whole time, it was like, it was a reflection of this injury. Anyway, fucking A, that was cool.
Wow, that's fabulous. I love it.
Well, in my function as the person of the 3D world here on the podcast, I do need to call out the clock a little bit just because.
Do you have to go?
I do have to go soon-ish because I have to go do another job. Yay!
Oh, Cassidy, this has been wonderful.
Who knew this is where it would go? I love that. Thank you, Claudia, for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's good to see you.
I don't want to slam the door shut. I do know that you are still kind of in the process of space, but.
And I can stay with Katie for as long as you want me, Katie. I'm here.
Cass, I love you. I'm going to stay with her for a minute.
Great. I'm going to get off, but then my recording will end. So should we end the podcast and let you guys stay on and just chat yourself?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you don't have to hang up, but I'm just going to say some words and then you can stay on with Katie.
Do your work.
I love you. This was amazing. I am changed because of today's episode. Do your work, y'all.
I love you, Cass.
Love you.
We love you. I love you, Cass.
I love you too, Claudia. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Bye, y'all.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you. But I'm sure Des knows all the things. I just hate to assume he knows this without knowing he knows this.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
We're going to give Desmond a run for his money on this one. Keep you on your toes, Des.